What happens to you if Donald Trump
Here it
wins?
comes.
What do you do? What's your first move?
I mean, it sounds nuts, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy threw me in jail.
What are my options on this? Should I prosecute all these people? And the DOJ comes back and they say, no, sir, look, listen, here's the standard. We've had 236 years, no prosecutions of political opponents after you win an election. So Trump, well, really, no one? Like, no.
Well, his message has clearly been that his only vengeance will be America's success. He is not interested.
AOC and the Democrats are panicking. Some of the polls showing Trump continues to pull away in 2024, and now they're worried that they'll be thrown in jail. They say Trump is going to weaponize our justice system and prosecute his political opponents, and it's amazing that they say this with a straight face because they're doing that right now. They have a bunch of J6ers in custody. They're trying to put Trump in jail. They've already prosecuted other people like Bannon and Navarro, and now they're worried about jail. Why? Is that because they committed actual crimes and they're worried that maybe there will be repercussions coming their way? Probably. But this all got kicked off because of this clip from Trump. He was out speaking and Cooper Anderson brought this up and they're having a meltdown mode over this. Anderson responds to Trump's comments on seeking revenge. So they took this like 6-second clip and Trump's talking about revenge. And by the way, revenge, I think, can be legal. You can have legal political revenge. It doesn't have to be unlawful and it doesn't have to be illegitimate. Revenge, I think, can be legitimate. You have somebody who comes and you see in the movies, right? You avenge the death of your father, whatever the story is. So that is an interesting dynamic, but they use this word to make it seem like it's illegitimate and like Trump is this dictatorial, tyrannical monster. But here they take this short clip out of context and then let's break down what's happening because AOC is reacting to this.
Well, revenge does take time. I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified, Phil. I have to be honest. You know, sometimes it can.
Yeah, okay, so 5 seconds. Well done. Well done. Thanks for the full clip there, Andy.
To Phil McGraw's attempt to do what Sean Hannity also failed to do.
And then they call him Phil McGraw rather than Dr. Phil, right? Because that's insulting. Phil McGraw. I'm like, who the heck is that person? So it's clearly Dr. Phil.
Do the night before, namely get Donald Trump to stop talking so openly about seeking revenge. It hasn't worked, and just yesterday, the former president also called for members of the House January 6th committee to be indicted.
They should, for conspiracy against rights, destruction of evidence, false business records. How about hit him with that one? Hit him with a RICO charge. Hit him with a classified documents mishandling charge because evidence is missing. It's destroyed. We don't know where it is. And they made up stories. They colluded. They conspired against rights of many people in this country. So yeah, indict them all. What's the problem?
It appears to his former strategist, Steve Bannon, being ordered to prison for defying a lawful subpoena.
It was not lawful. Their committee was not even lawfully constituted, Anderson. It was H.R. 503, supposed to be 8 Republicans, 8 Democrats, and 5 Republicans for a total of 13. By their own rules. It's in the document. Read it. It's not a lawful subpoena. But the courts allowed it to happen because Congress, they said, in D.C., can manage their own affairs. But it's not lawful at all, not even by their own rules.
From that committee. The same Steve Bannon who received a presidential pardon while being accused of bilking money from Trump supporters, claiming it would go to build a wall on the border during the final days of the Trump administration. President Biden, by contrast, just reaffirmed a commitment not to pardon his only surviving son, Hunter, who's on trial on gun charges.
It's just pure propaganda. But Biden's not going to do it. Now, this is a clip from AOC, and she shared this on this podcast with Kara Swisher. And we'll listen to a little bit of this.
So I have 2 more short questions in that context. Trump is now a convicted felon, if you hadn't heard. It's been obviously a boon to his fundraising. There is also a possibility he will win. Do you think he has a chance? And then what does that mean for you as a politician and for Democrats if that happens?
Trump does absolutely have a chance to win. That is why I have thrown my support behind Biden early, and I support it vociferously.
She sounds a little nervous,
It is unequivocal that if Donald Trump wins, we are looking at the potential dissolution of democracy in the United States of America. And
the dissolution of democracy in the United States of America. It's like, come on, AOC.
The question about what would happen to me or the Democratic Party is a joke compared to the question of what is going to happen to our country. I don't even think this presidential election is about Republican or Democrat or vote on any one policy or another. This truly is about, are we giving up on democracy? Are we done?
We're done with your version of democracy where all the elections are rigged and it's a one one-party state in multiple states, like California, for example, do you call that a democracy when every single seat is a Democrat? And no matter what happens in the election, a Democrat wins. No matter what. That's not democracy at all. No, we don't want that, where you guys control everything. We're not interested in that.
Forever. And I cannot underscore how existential this is.
We're all going to die. Yes, I know.
And I think that if you're in a blue state, what people do not understand is that a national abortion ban predates, it preempts any state level law. If you're in New York and you're California and you think you're sitting pretty because our state laws allow abortion, if a national abortion ban is passed,
that's all they're going to
We're done.
That's it. We're done.
We are done.
We're done.
And I think when it comes to presidential elections, and especially to young people, I understand the lack of support for President Biden.
Yeah.
And I think the demoralization around the president has caused folks to sometimes tune out on down ballot candidates that will actually advance more alignment with their interests. And so the answer here is to get into the game, not to get out of it.
So, very last question. What happens to you if Donald Trump
wins?
What do you do? What's your first move?
I mean, it sounds nuts, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy threw me in jail.
Really?
He's out of his mind.
Okay.
I mean, he did his whole first campaign around lock her up. Like, this is his motto.
Yeah, and then he didn't lock her up. He didn't do it. That's the whole point. Then he left office, and you guys said he was a tyrant who was never going to leave. Like, all of these things are little threats in their brains that don't even have a connection to reality at all. Oh, his first campaign was lock her up. Did he do it? Did Hillary Clinton get prosecuted at all? Or did she cry about her election, screaming it was rigged, 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 Russian, Trump's illegitimate? Yes, all of those things happened. Throw you in jail, AOC? What Democrats are sitting in jail because of Trump? Can you name one? We have multiple people, the J6ers, many people who were politically protesting just like the BLMers were, just like the Antifa, actually a lot less violent and more peaceful than they were.
Oh, he didn't say that, you know. He said he didn't say it.
Yeah, right?
That, yeah.
I take him at his word. I take him at his word when he says that he's going to round up people. I take him at his word when he threatens journalists. I take him at his word. I feel like what we saw in his first presidency was an amuse-bouche.
No war,
to
secure
what
border,
his intentions are. He has
sound
learned
currency
from his mistakes of appointing professionals, and he will not make that mistake next time.
I hope not. I hope he doesn't. There were a lot of mistakes there, like enabling the FBI and the DOJ to do what they did and not making some serious changes there. We got some issues, about some pardons and releasing some evidence and other things. But yeah, we do hope Trump has learned, and hopefully he doesn't work with people like Mark Milley next time. That'd be great. All right, so that's AOC. She's very upset about this, but let me share also what they're talking about on CNN. This is Maggie Haberman, who Trump has actually had a lot of conversations with for whatever reason. She is here over on CNN, and she's petrified, paranoid. She's very concerned that this is going to be the same problem for her, that Trump is going to be enacting revenge.
In the past, when he's said it, he's kind of tried to pivot a couple days later, saying, no, my real revenge will be the success of the American people. His advisors have said the same thing. They're not even trying to hedge at this point. Is that fair?
I don't think his advisors, at least some of them, are especially happy with how explicit he's being right now, but explicit he is being. And I think that we have seen for 8 years people come up with rationalizations for why you shouldn't take him at his word when he's saying what he is going to do. Now, he was prevented from doing what he wanted to do at various points when he was president previously. And, he went into office
unfortunately,
saying he didn't want to hurt the Clintons anymore. But then within months, he was talking to Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, about reopening an investigation.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Clinton. He wanted John Kerry prosecuted. I mean, it can go down the list. And so he wanted James Comey prosecuted.
Yeah, nothing happened.
There is no reason to think that any of those desires would change. And what he is looking for, and Jonathan Swan, Charlie Savage, and I have written about this, is lawyers who will help him get to a yes on various fronts. In a second administration, he is talking about eroding the post-Watergate norm of Justice Department independence.
Oh, gosh.
I don't see any reason why people would not believe him and his allies when they say this.
Okay, so this is ridiculous. So first of all, I think that might actually be true. Trump could have gone in there and said, yes, what are my options on this? Should I prosecute all these people? And the DOJ comes back and they say, no, sir, look, listen, here's the standard. Okay, we've had 236 years, no prosecutions of political opponents after you win an election. So Trump, well, really, no one? Like, no. Yeah, no, it hasn't happened. We haven't gone down this road. And so even though she's a criminal and a crook and there's other things we should do, maybe let's get rid of Comey, we'll make some other changes, but it's not prudent, it's not wise to shatter that precedent. So sure, yeah, Trump can come in. Yeah, what about Comey? What about Hillary? What about the Bidens? What about Obama? Like, should we just clean house on this? Everyone comes in, says, says no. And by the way, that's the right answer. Was. But it's not the right answer anymore. I was fine with that. If Trump won, okay, bygones be bygones. I'd rather not be in a country where we have a cycle of recriminations. I know a lot of people were very excited about that. And I thought during the campaign, it was great. We love to hear Trump. I remember that one debate where Trump was kind of looming around behind Hillary and she just says something and he says, because you'd be in jail. The crowd went nuts, right? And that was just absolutely wild. But then he didn't actually do it. And even there, you're kind of cheering like, yeah, okay. But hopefully we don't actually go down that route because it's going to come back to backfire. It's going to backfire on everybody. But Trump didn't do that. Trump was the person who actually rose above the fray. Whether you love him or hate him, he didn't do it. They're saying he could have, wanted to maybe, but didn't. But now they broke the seal. Now there's a new set of rules. Now Trump can go to his DOJ and say, historically, yeah, you wouldn't have prosecuted these things. Here is James Trusty who's a former Trump lawyer, talking about how this might work when Bannon reports and whether there will be a possibility of appeal.
Sarah Murray report that a judge has ordered Bannon to report to prison by July 1st for a 4-month prison sentence. What's your reaction in general?
I mean, not surprised. I heard her say that the defense team was surprised. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Maybe they at least said they were surprised. But look, there's a lot of statutory and case law overlap that basically talks about staying a sentence and keeping a person out of jail while they are pending appeal. It's very uphill. And you have to basically convince the sentencing judge that there's a serious error that they're likely to win on appeal. The D.C. Court of Appeals just shut that down. The history of these contempt cases with the Supreme Court's not particularly favorable for Bannon either. So that all kind of conspires to make it a pretty easy legal ruling that he's not going to have to be able to stay out anymore.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. It's terrible. All right, so here is Kristi Noem. She is still out there, man. A lot of fight in this dog. She just keeps going and going and going, and no one is going to stop her. She wants to be the vice presidential candidate. No one's going to put her down at all. So here she is explaining that Trump is not going to be enacting political revenge on his opponents and stop being ridiculous, which I agree with that message. It is ridiculous. Here she is.
Now from Wisconsin, where she is campaigning for Donald Trump, is South Dakota Republican Governor Kristi Noem. Thank you so much for being here, Governor. I want to start with what we've heard a lot of from the former president since he was found guilty in his New York hush money trial, and that is repeatedly suggesting that he would prosecute his political opponents if he is elected. Listen to part of what he said.
It's a terrible precedent for our country. Does that mean the next president does it to them? That's really the question. And it's very possible that it's going to happen to them.
Based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them. Revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified.
Governor, is that the message you think Donald Trump should be focusing on in this campaign right now?
Well, his message has clearly been that his only vengeance will be America's success. He is not interested in going after political opponents. He is interested in going back to the White House and working for the American people and their families, bringing down inflation costs. And that's what I'm hearing overwhelmingly here in Wisconsin, is that this swing state is so important. And these people here, their number one issue right now is not that sham trial and not the verdict and the convictions and not what's going on as far as what a lot of people are talking about in the media. They care about what's happening to their families, how much grocery prices have gone up, how much better their lives were 4 years ago. So that's really their number one concern.
Yeah, I mean, it seems clear what you're hearing from voters that is what their concern is. But it is what we heard from Donald Trump this week over and over in interview after interview, that he is considering going after his political opponents.
Yeah, for breaking the law.
Should he stop doing that, given what you just said?
No, if they broke the law, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No one's above the law.
The American people. If we start weaponizing the judicial system like they did against him, that it could happen to any president. It could happen to any political opponent. What he's talking about when he's having those discussions is that be careful what you do, because that opens the door in the future to anybody doing it. And that's what he's trying to shut down. He wants people to trust our judicial system. He wants to make sure that we still have law and order in this country. If you look at conservative areas of this country, places where...
Yeah, and one way you do that is by rooting out the bad actors in the system. You have to get rid of them because they are perverting the system. The people who are the unjust cannot be in charge of justice. They have to go.
We're in control. We have law and order. We have peace and stability. You go to Democrat states and cities, that's where you see destruction, and you see judicial systems and trials and corrupt judges that prosecute their political enemies. That's what New York was. New York, that was definitely a rigged judicial
and election
process against the president.
Yeah, right on.
Politically motivated. Well, he was found guilty based on a jury, 12 members hours of 12 peers.
Spit it out. Gosh. What do they pay these people on CNN for crying out loud? So that's all they have. He was convicted by a jury of his peers. They're going to have the stupid talking points like fifth graders. Just amazing. All right. So that is AOC and the rest of the left melting down. The meltdowns will continue because the MAGA momentum continues to rise. That's why there's a little bit of panic in the voice. AOC in that first clip was a little bit quaky. Do you think Trump can win? Oh, maybe. I sure hope not, because I'll be thrown in jail. Why would you be thrown in jail if you're a law-abiding citizen, right? So we'll continue to cover this, my friends, wherever you're watching it. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for sharing our channel with a friend or family member. We got election news, Trump litigation, and much more here on this channel coming up as the season unfolds. We'd love to have you here and join us, especially join us in our next segment, which is where we're going to be talking about Joe Biden and the Biden family snubbing Hunter's baby, Joe's grandbaby, totally ignored by the Biden family because they're kind of garbage people. We'll talk about that in the next segment. We'll see you over there.